A little girl begging a stranger for a story at a snowy train station, sparking a tale of broken hearts finding home in the Wild West. Hold on tight. This one's full of warmth and surprises. Can you read me a story? Begged the little girl. To the mail-order bride, left starving at Station Frontier Pass Station, Nevada Territory, October 1872. The snow had come early. Long before winter was due, it drifted down like sifted sugar across the cracked wooden beams of the Frontier Pass Depot. The wind howled through the ghost-silent platform, rattling the frosted windows and dancing with old nails that creaked in. The timber's lamps flickered dimly, casting pale halos in the thickening dusk. Claire Duval sat alone on a frozen bench, arms wrapped tight around a battered leather valise. Her wool dress, once burgundy, had dulled to the color of dried rust. A thin scarf was knotted at her throat, its edges stiff with frost. Snow gathered in her dark hair. She did not brush it away. She watched the tracks waiting. The letter had said he would meet her here. A good man, honest, hard-working, a small farm near the Carson River, no children. She had memorized every line, imagined the porch, the kitchen, the scent of dry sage in the wind, a new beginning. She pulled her shawl tighter as another gust sliced through. The depot. Her fingers were red and chapped, raw from the journey. Behind her. The last train had pulled away over an hour ago. The few who had disembarked were long gone. And then she heard boots. A man emerged from the far end of the platform. He walked with purpose, hands buried deep in his coat pockets, hat pulled low against the cold. As he approached, Claire stood, heart stumbling in her chest. It was him. She recognized the strong jaw, the narrow eyes. He looked exactly like the photograph, but he did not smile. His gaze landed on her, lingered, then moved past her, as if searching for someone else. He stopped 3 feet away. "You Claire Duval?" he asked. His voice was dry, flat. "Yes," she replied quickly. "I arrived on time. I still have your letters if you would like to see." She fumbled open the valise, pulling free a bundle of folded parchment, edges soft from rereading. Her hand trembled as she held them out. Looking into them, Claire found all that she had lost flashing in her panic, the names of all her curses which belonged to her. He looked at the letters, then at her again. A muscle in his cheek ticked. "I did not think you would look like this," he said. Claire, quote, S. Breath hitched. "I am sorry," she whispered. "There was a robbery. My parents, they were killed. I lost everything. But I came. I do not want trouble." His voice was sharper now. "I did not sign up for a ghost. I want a wife, not a woman with death at her." "Heels." She flinched. He stared at her for another beat, then turned. No goodbye. No nod. Just the crunch of boots in snow as he walked away. Claire stood frozen, the letters still in her hand. A sudden gust of wind snatched one from her fingers. It fluttered, then fell, disappearing into the white. A carriage door slammed. The horses pulled away, hooves fading into the cold. She sat back down slowly, the bench harder than stone. Her breath came in short clouds, but she did not cry. Not because she did not want to, but because she could not. Grief had dried her hollow. She bowed her head. Then, a small voice broke the silence. "Mama used to read me fairy tales. Can you?" Claire looked up. A little girl stood before her, no more than 5. She wore a fur-lined coat 2 sizes too big, and in her arms was a worn book, its spine split, corners bent, covers stained with age. The child stared at her with wide gray eyes. Claire blinked. She looked around the platform. Empty. No parents. No siblings. Just snow and this child. And the question lingering between them. Slowly she nodded. Not because she understood, not because it made sense, but because something in her, long sealed in silence and ash stirred. The snow kept falling, but something else, something warmer, had begun to fall, too. The child's hand was warm. She slipped her fingers into Claire's without asking, leading her away from the empty depot, past the last smoking lamppost, down a narrow path edged with white. Claire did not ask where they were going. She followed. A mile later, under darkening skies, they reached a small ranch tucked against a line of bare cottonwoods. The house was plain, wood faded to gray, roof patched with tin, a single plume of smoke curling from the chimney. A barn leaned tiredly to one side, horses stamped in the snow. The child let go and bounded toward the house. Papa. Claire stopped. A tall man stepped out onto the porch, a rifle slung over his shoulder. His coat was thick wool, collar turned up against the cold. His left leg braced stiff as he moved forward with a limp, deliberate and practiced. A crutch leaned by the door. He saw Claire and stilled. The child ran to him, tugging his hand, pointing back toward her. She was at the station. Sitting alone. She reads stories. Silas Crowley looked at the woman standing in the snow. Wet hair, cracked lips, arms wrapped around an empty valise, his brow furrowed. Claire took a breath. "I am not here to cause trouble," she said quietly. Your daughter, she found. Me. I will go if you say so. He did not answer at first. Then he looked down at his daughter, who was smiling, a rare thing. A soft, open smile he had not seen in months. Come inside, he said. The fire was small, but it warmed the room enough. Claire sat near the edge, unsure whether to speak, to thank, or to simply disappear. Silas poured coffee into a tin cup and handed it to her. She nodded in gratitude, fingers curling around, the warmth like it might disappear. "I did not send for a bride," he said, breaking the silence, "if that is what you are thinking." "I know," she replied. "Your daughter brought me." He looked at Emmy, who was curled up on a rag rug, flipping through her torn book. "I can work," Claire added quickly. "Chores, cleaning. You do not owe me anything. But if I could earn food and shelter for a little while?" Silas said nothing. Then Emmy spoke without looking up. "She reads good, not like Miss Tanner." Silas exhaled. 2 weeks, he said. "You help with the house, nothing else." "I understand," Claire whispered. That night, Claire washed dishes in a chipped basin and dried them with flour sacks. She mended a curtain, torn at the seam. She found the broom without asking. When Emmy tugged her sleeve and held up the book again, Claire followed her to the corner where an old oil lamp flickered. She read slowly at first, voice rusty from cold and silence. But then it smoothed, found rhythm and warmed. And the prince, though covered in scars and shadow, still knelt before her. "I would rather be broken by love than whole in loneliness," he said. Emmy leaned her head on Claire's arm, her breath slowed. Claire glanced up across the room. In the dark near the stairs, Silas stood, one hand on the railing, watching, listening. He said nothing. But he did not look away. Morning came in pale gray streaks across the frost-kissed windows. The Crowley ranch was quiet, wrapped in the hush of snow that never quite melted. Claire rose before the rooster, crowed. No one told her to. she simply moved. With instinct, she fetched water from the pump, split kindling with calloused hands, and swept the porch while her breath still steamed in the cold. The days were hard, but clean. The air stung her lungs, but it carried no screams, no gunshots, no sirens from the past. Only the crackle of wood and the distant sound of hooves. Silas kept to himself. He worked the livestock, repaired the fence line, checked traps. Claire noticed how he favored his left side, how every step bore the memory of something lost beneath the knee. His crutch leaned against the wall like a ghost. He refused to banish. He barely spoke. When he did, it was short, measured, but he never looked through her like others did. He watched quietly from a distance. And Emmy clung. She followed Claire through chores, tugged at her skirt in the kitchen, mimicked her kneeling in prayer before meals. She laughed when Claire taught her how to twist bread dough, and her eyes lit up every time a story began with, "Once upon a time." Claire found herself waiting for those moments. They were tiny threads stitching her back together. One evening, after Emmy had fallen asleep with a book on her chest, Claire stepped outside for air. The wind had shifted colder. She hugged herself and coughed sharp and dry. Her lungs burned from days working through wind and damp. She sat on the porch alone in the dark. Minutes passed, maybe more. Then the door behind her opened. Quiet, careful. A shape moved beside her, not a word spoken. A hand reached past her shoulder, setting down a chipped mug filled with steam. Tea, black, sweetened with a spoonful of honey. Claire looked up. Silas said nothing. He turned and went back inside, the screen door clicking shut behind him. She stared at the cup. Then with trembling hands. She brought it to her lips. It was the kindest thing anyone had done for her in years. The next day, while feeding chickens with Emmy, her sleeve slipped back. A scar, long and faded, curved along the inside of her wrist. Jagged, ugly, the kind of wound that did not come from farm work. Silas, walking by with a sack of oats, saw it. He stopped, eyes flicking to her arm, then to her face. Claire froze, but he said nothing, just nodded once slowly and kept walking. She watched him go, unsure whether to feel shame or gratitude. That night, Emmy nestled against her under a wool blanket, half asleep. "I like it when you talk," the child mumbled. Even when you do not say stories. Claire swallowed the knot in her throat. She placed a hand gently on the girl's back, stroking slow circles as the wind howled outside. Some wounds never fully healed. But here, in the quiet, between snowfall and silence, something inside her had begun to remember how to breathe. The wind was sharp that morning. A cold front had blown through the valley, stirring up dust and warning of early frost. Claire was gathering firewood near the barn when she heard the scream. "Emmy!" She dropped the bundle in an instant. The sound had come from the rear of the stables. Claire sprinted, her boots sliding in the mud, heart hammering against her ribs. She rounded the corner and found the little girl lying crumpled beneath a ladder. The stable door stood ajar. A bucket rolled on its side nearby. Emmy was crying, soft but shrill. Her leg was twisted awkwardly and her hands clutched the ground. Claire dropped to her knees. Emmy, look at me. Sweetheart. Look at me. The girl's face was red with panic, her breaths short and gasping. Claire reached out to scoop her into her arms. But as she did, pain seared through her own hand. A jagged nail, rusted and bent, had pierced the plank she grabbed for balance. It tore through the skin of her palm like a hook. She winced, biting back a cry. Blood welled up fast, hot and thick. Still, she lifted Emmy. The child whimpered against her chest. "It hurts," she sobbed. "It hurts so much." Claire knelt beside the barn wall, cradling the child and rocking slightly. Her own hand throbbed. Blood dripped onto the dirt. "It is going to be all right," Claire whispered. But the words sounded hollow. Emmy continued to shake in her arms, clutching her dress, sobbing into her collarbone. Claire, quote, "S gaze dropped to the blood stark red against pale dust." Then she remembered something. Words had always calmed the girl, even now when panic clouded her mind. Emmy searched for story. Claire shifted the girl onto her lap, her injured hand dragging across the dirt. She dipped her fingers in the blood pooling at her wrist and slowly began to write. "Emmy." The letters appeared jagged, trembling. "Is..." Her vision blurred. "Safe." She circled the last word with a shaking line. "Emmy is safe," she whispered aloud. "See?" The girl looked up, tears caught in her lashes. "That's your name. That's your story. You are safe now." Behind them, footsteps pounded on frozen earth. Silas burst into view, eyes wild, shotgun in hand. He froze when he saw them. Claire sitting in the dirt, blood smeared across her hand, and dressed. Emmy in her lap, weeping into her chest. The words scrolled on the ground like a spell. He lowered the gun. His mouth opened, then closed again. He took a step forward but did not speak. Claire met his eyes, her own filled with pain and quiet resolve. "I did not know she was up there," she said. "I turned my back for a second." He said nothing. Instead, he walked slowly toward them, dropped to one knee, and gently lifted Emmy from her arms. The child clung to him briefly, then whimpered and fell asleep against his shoulder. He stood. Claire remained kneeling in the dirt, blood still dripping from her palm, her breath shallow from effort. Silas looked, down at the words, "Emmy is safe," written not with ink, but with the blood of a woman who owed them nothing. He carried Emmy back toward the house, but at the threshold, he paused. "You need that stitched," he said without turning. "I will clean it." He nodded once. Later that evening, after Emmy had been wrapped in blankets and fed warm broth, Claire sat in the kitchen with her hand bandaged in rough linen. She was silent, watching the fire. Silas entered quietly. He stood by the doorway for a long time. "She was supposed to be inside," he said. Claire said nothing. He looked at her bandaged hand. "Why did you write that?" he asked. Claire, quote, S voice was low. She needed to see something real, something she could hold on to. Silas did not respond, but his jaw flexed and his gaze lingered, not with judgment, but with something heavier. A man like him had seen war, seen men fall beside him, bled beside their screams. But no act of courage in all that time had struck him like this. A woman the world had discarded, had used the last of her strength to protect what was not hers, and written a single sentence in her own. Blood. He stepped closer, gently set a tin cup beside her. Warm tea with honey again. Then he left the room without another word. Claire looked down at her hand, then at the cup, and something inside her cracked open. It had been nearly 2 weeks since the fall. Claire, quote, S hand had begun to heal, though the stiffness lingered. The scar would be permanent. She did not mind. On a cold morning, Silas hitched the wagon and handed her a folded list. Supplies, he said. Salt, flour, and the mail. Emmy likes the peppermint candy. If there is any left, Claire nodded. I will be quick. He gave her a small pouch of coins. Their fingers brushed only briefly, and then she climbed into the wagon and headed toward town. Pine Hollow was little more than a cluster of wooden buildings pressed against the base of the mountains. General store, saloon, sheriff's office, and a chapel. No one quite kept open. Claire kept her head down as she tied up the horse, her breath fogging in the cold. Inside the store, she moved with practiced quiet, gathering what she needed, nodding politely, not lingering until a voice stopped her dead, deep, slow, stretched by whiskey and venom. You still short on tobacco, old man? I told you to stock better brand. Claire froze by the shelf of canned beans. She knew that voice. Knew it in her bones, in her nightmares, in the way her father had shouted her name seconds before the gunshots. Slowly. She turned, and there he was, tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in a black coat, with a knife tucked at his belt. His face was the same, hard, weathered, cruel, a jagged scar sliced down his left cheek like a slash from the devil himself. Claire, stomach turned. Gabe Turner, the man who led the gang that robbed the First National Bank of Saline County, the man who shot her father in the chest, who grabbed her by the hair and threw her to the ground when she screamed. And now he was here buying tobacco, laughing with the storekeep like nothing ever happened. Claire could not move. She gripped the edge of the shelf until her knuckles turned white. When he turned, their eyes met. Something flickered in his gaze. Recognition? Amusement? It was hard to say. He smiled, a slow, vile curve of the lips. Don't I know you from somewhere? He asked loud enough for the whole store to hear. Claire said nothing. She dropped the basket, turned, and walked out into the snow. She did not remember the ride back, only the wind and the bile rising in her throat and her fists clenched so tight the bandage split again. She found Silas in the barn oiling the latch of a broken gate. He looked up, surprised to see her early. You forget something? He asked. Claire jumped down and crossed to him. There is a man in town at the store. Silas stood. The look in her eyes sobered him immediately. Tall scar on his cheek, black coat, name's Gabe Turner. Silas, S brow tightened. Know him. Claire, S voice was shaking. He killed my father. The words hung there, quiet, unrelenting. Silas stepped back. A flicker of disbelief crossed his face. Gabe served under me, he said slowly. Back in the war. Infantry scout. Reckless, but loyal. Or so I thought. Claire stared. You trusted him. Silas looked away. After the war, men scattered. Some stayed straight. Some didn't. T. He led the gang that murdered my parents. Claire said. You shared letters with a man who spilled their blood. Silas swallowed. His hands curled into fists at his side. I did not know. Claire stepped closer. He smiled when he saw me like it was a joke. Like my pain meant nothing. Silas said nothing. And that. Silence cut deeper than she expected. You are not going to do anything. What would you have me do? He snapped. Tell the sheriff. Tell someone. There is no proof, no warrant, just a woman's word against a man. The town has known for 10 years. Claire, S face hardened. So I am just a woman now. Silas looked at her, his voice low but firm. This land does not forget, but it does not forgive easily either. Stirring up ghosts will not bring your family back. Claire took a step back. The sting in her chest was worse than any bullet. She turned to leave but stopped in the doorway. I thought you, of all people, would understand, she whispered. Silas did not answer. The barn felt colder than the snow outside. The days grew shorter. Snow settled heavier on the ridges, muffling sound and softening the world. Inside the Crowley house, the fire rarely went out, and every room smelled faintly of pine and ash. Claire kept her distance from Silas. Since the argument in the barn, they had spoken little, just nods. A few necessary words. He did not ask about Turner again. She did not offer. There was a wall now, unspoken, thick, icy. But Emmy was different. The child still clung to Claire's presence like it was her own shadow. She insisted Claire be the one to braid her hair, to read her stories, to tuck her in. She reached for her hand without thinking, leaned her head on Claire's shoulder without asking. That night, the wind screamed through the eaves. Snow lashed the windows like fingers trying to claw inside. Claire had just finished reading the last page of The Little Match Girl. Emmy lay quiet, her tiny hand curled around Claire's sleeve. Silas had not come in to say goodnight. Claire placed the book on the nightstand, brushed a curl from the girl's forehead, and leaned to blow out the lamp. But Emmy stirred. "Mama," she mumbled, eyes still. "Close." Claire paused. The girl turned, buried her face into Claire's side, and in a voice thick with dreams, whispered, "Don't leave. You're the only one who smells like bedtime stories." Claire's heart stopped. She looked down. Emmy, S lashes fluttered, but she did not wake. Outside the room, a floorboard creaked. Claire turned. In the shadow of the hall, Silas stood. He had been there. He had heard. His face was unreadable, but something in his eyes looked cracked. Something old and buried deep, suddenly unearthed. The clouds above Crowley Ranch thickened. Moonlight swallowed by the coming storm. Claire stirred in her sleep. The wind had changed. Then she smelled it. Smoke. And seconds later the panicked cries of horses shattered the silence. She bolted upright. Emmy was already awake, standing barefoot at the window. The barn, she gasped. They re-screaming. Claire grabbed a coat, yanked open the front door. Flames clawed at the night sky, red and ravenous. The barn was ablaze. Horses bucked and reared, shrieking in terror. My pony's still in there, Emmy cried. Mama, he's in there. Claire didn't hesitate. She ran barefoot toward the fire. The heat hit her like a wave. Sparks leapt at her hair. She threw open the door. Chaos, wood crashing, fires snapping, animals howling. She moved stall by stall, unlatching gates, slapping rumps. The bay pony was trapped behind a half-collapsed beam. Claire climbed through the smoke. She reached him. He was wild-eyed but alive. Crack. The roof groaned. A flaming beam came down. And Claire screamed. The girl had followed her barefoot and terrified. "Go back!" Claire shouted. But the beam was falling clear of her backward look. Her leg caught under the timber. Pain tore through her thigh, but she shielded Emmy, wrapping her arms around the child just in time. Then everything blurred into black. And red far away. Silas Crowley saw the glow. He had been tracking a coyote that mauled his sheep. His blood turned to ice. He dropped his rifle, spurred the horse. Claire. Emmy. He dismounted before the horse stopped. The yard a fire of burning hay. He found them behind the barn. Claire unconscious. Emmy sobbing. Snow melting around them. He dropped to his knees. Claire. No response. Emmy, baby, are you hurt? She shook her head. She saved me, she cried. Mama saved me. He lifted Claire carefully. Emmy clung to his coat as they stumbled back into the house. Rain broke overhead, dousing the fire. Claire woke to coughing. Her leg throbbed. Silas sat beside her, eyes hollow. She is safe, Claire rasped. I know. She followed me. You saved her. Claire closed her eyes, then opened them. There was a scarf, red, torn, same pattern as the men who raided my town. Silas stood slowly. You are sure? Claire nodded. The one who led them, Turner. Gabe, Turner. Silas. Quote, S jaw locked. I pulled him from a trench once. Thought he'd die a hero. He murdered my family, Claire whispered. He left a scar on my wrist when he laughed over my father's body. Silas looked down at her hands. She had never shown him that wound. His voice turned to gravel. I saved a monster and now he came for mine. Claire reached out, grabbed his coat. You cannot go alone. He placed his hand over hers. I quote, am not going for revenge, he said. I quote, am going because until he's gone, neither of you is safe. Rain poured harder. Silas saddled his horse. Claire sat on the porch, leg bandaged. Emmy asleep in her lap. She reached for him. Please come back. He met her eyes. I will. The saloon on Miner's Trail stank of sweat and whiskey. Gabe Turner laughed among cowards. Burned the whole damn barn. He boasted. Stupid woman screamed like a banshee. Silas stepped through the door. Silence fell. He did not draw. Gabe, you wore a uniform once. You knew what it meant. Turner scoffed. That was a long time ago, Captain. You shot a preacher, burned a home, and you think you're still a man? Turner drew. Silas was faster. He turned. Turner dropped, clutching his shoulder. Silas stepped over him, kicked the gun away. Alive so you can rot in a cell. So the girl can sleep. He handed the pistol to the sheriff. Add arson, attempted murder, treason. Then he rode back through the rain, not as a soldier, but as a father. And maybe at last as a man ready to live. Rain had fallen for 3 days, not the kind that raged, but the kind that lingered, soft, steady, and unrelenting. It turned the Crowley Ranch into a sea of thick, sucking mud. The barn stood like a skeleton. In the yard, blackened and quiet. Claire moved slowly through the house. Her limp, worsened by the fire, made every step feel heavier. But she refused help. Silas offered once, twice. After that, he stopped asking. She did not say much. She cooked, cleaned, folded blankets. Emmy followed her like a shadow. But Claire seemed to be slipping away like steam from a forgotten pot on the stove. Silas noticed. He watched from the doorway, from the porch, from across the dinner table. He said nothing, but he saw it in her eyes. She was already gone. Claire packed. Quietly. She waited for Silas to ride out to check the southern fence. Emmy was on the back porch, smearing soot into shapes only a child could understand. Claire moved with care, methodical, emotionless, folding the same dress she had arrived in. The valise clicked shut. She left the letters. All of them. The wound on her leg had healed, but the others hadn't. Quote, not the ones that woke her at night. Not the ones that made her feel like a trespasser in someone else's story. I came here to survive, she whispered to the stillness. Not to stay. On Emmy's nightstand, she placed the girl's favorite storybook. Its spine was cracked, corners torn. On the inside cover, she wrote, Finish this one with your papa. Then at the kitchen table, she laid down a letter, just 3 lines. I know how to leave, but do not think I never wanted to stay. By the time the first birds broke the gray sky, Claire had taken the road east, muddy, frozen, and as lonely as her thoughts. Emmy woke before the sun. The house was too quiet. Too cold. Dot. She checked the bedroom, the kitchen, the front porch. Dot. But Claire, no reply. Dot. She found the note inside the book. Dot. She read it once, then again, and then she ran barefoot into the mud, sobbing. Dot. Silas was at the far gate when he heard her scream. Dot. He turned, galloped back, and met Emmy halfway, her cheeks stained with tears. She left, she cried. She left us. Silas read the note only once. Dot. He did not pause, did not eat, did not saddle a fresh horse. Dot. He rode. Dot. The road was half frozen and brutal. Dot. Snowflakes drifted like ash. Dot. The wagon Claire had hired had broken down outside Pine Hollow. Its wheels stuck deep in sludge. Dot. She had been walking for miles, boots soaked, valise dragging behind her like a ghost. Dot. She did not hear Silas at first. Dot. Only when the hooves stopped beside her did she turn. Dot. He looked like a storm. Mud splattered, breathless, eyes wide with something that looked a lot like fear. Dot. He stepped down, moved toward her, and then in the middle of the road in the falling snow, he dropped to one knee. Dot. No speech, no ring, just rain and truth. Let me start over, he said. Not for her. For you. Claire blinked, stunned. You do not owe me anything. That's exactly why it's real. He said, I am not asking you to be her mother. I am asking you to be the woman I come home to, the one who made this house feel like more than walls. She let the valise fall. Dot. The tears came quietly. Dot. Then freely. Dot. She walked into his arms without another word. Dot. The snow swirled, but they did not feel it. Dot. She looked up, voice cracking. And what story will we read tonight, Mr. Crowley? He smiled. Dot. Ours. Dot. We quote. Ellie. Start with the day you made fire feel like home. Dot. At evening, the house was lit by candlelight and stew. Dot. The hearth crackled once more. Dot. The shadows were softer now. Dot. Emmy sat between them, her small hands turning the pages as Claire read aloud. Dot. Her voice had changed, stronger, richer, laced with warmth and memory. Dot. Silas did not read, but his hand rested on Claire. Quote S. Dot. He did not let go. Dot. Outside the wind howled and the road disappeared beneath snow. But inside the future had begun. Dot. Not with thunder, but with quiet, with forgiveness and love. Dot. If this story moved you, share it with someone who still believes in love that rises from ash and snow. Dot. Subscribe to Wild West. Love stories where every tale reminds us that in the dust of history, hearts still beat. Dot. Where bullets missed, but hearts didn't. Quote T. Dot. Hit the bell so you never miss a story from the wild, the broken, and the beautiful.